CNN, Fredricka Whitfield did an interview with some of Trump's people, in particular a guy that, as far as I'm concerned, has no credibility. But anyway, this segment is regarding Trump's immigration plan, as you can obviously see. And Kellyanne Conway did an interview earlier, which Fredricka referenced, and then she goes to her two guests.
He said there will be no amnesty. All immigrants here illegally will be subject to deportation. So will they be subject to deportation and removal, or will they have to go?
If they're criminals, they're going immediately, and we don't know what that number is. We hear anything from 1 to 2 million. And then, of course, he has also said, this being the most generous country to immigrants in the world, that if you want to come to America and immigrate here legally,
and if they're
you should
not
do that.
criminals, that has been very clear. He's talked about the criminals, but if they aren't criminals, do they have to go?
He has said that you should stand in line and immigrate legally, and also he has said that once we do things that have
So
never
you mean
been
they
done.
have to go?
What I'm saying is he has said that, and he said the other night, everybody can read the 10-point plan if they like. At least we have one out there. The other side
Okay,
doesn't.
but that really doesn't clear it up, Kellyanne.
Well,
Do
it
people
does in
here
this
who
way,
aren't
Martha.
criminals have to
Sure.
go?
Correct. But no, but he also said that once you enforce the law, once you get rid of the criminals, once you triple the number of ICE agents, once you secure the southern border, once you turn off the jobs magnet, jobs and benefit magnet, then we'll see where we are.
All right, let's talk more about this with my panel, Republican political commentator and Donald Trump supporter Paris Denard and Democratic strategist Mustafa Tamiz. Good to see both of you, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Fred.
All right, so Paris, you first. Whom or what do you blame for all of this confusion on messaging within the Trump campaign?
Well, I don't see confusion from the Trump campaign in terms of his messaging as it relates to his.
That didn't demonstrate some inconsistencies on messaging?
I think the media is trying to create this controversy about the inconsistent messages, but I don't think...
You mean the media by hosting the comments of those who were speaking on behalf of Donald Trump?
I think if you look at his speech and you look at his 10-point plan, it's clear what his illegal immigration policy is going to be. And it's very clear that he wants to do this in a humane and respectful manner. And the bigger issue is, Fred, what we're highlighting is this is a very complicated issue. If it was so simple, President Obama would have done it. Secretary Clinton would have been able to fix it. But it's not. So you have to go...
Donald Trump did say mass deportations. In fact, we have like a string of his bites queued up if we can get that ready, if we need reminding on that. And at the same time, you had Giuliani saying something different this morning, and then Kellyanne Conway saying yet another thing. So it is getting a little confusing.
I think at the end of the day, what we need to go by is what Mr. Trump put in his 10-point plan and what he says from his own mouth. At the end, he is the candidate, he is our nominee, and what he says goes.
But, okay, so Mustafa, is that a problem then if you have the candidate saying one thing and you have surrogates or supporters speaking on behalf of that candidate saying another thing? I mean, what's a voter to know, understand, and, grasp?
Well, Governor Pence, Rudolph Giuliani, Kellyanne Conway are being intellectually dishonest. This is part of the strategy. Donald Trump goes out and says very harsh things to rally up his base. They go out and soften up the language to muddy it up. And then they go out to blame the media for not covering them properly.
So why is that advantageous?
To Hillary Clinton.
Sorry to interrupt, but why is that advantageous?
Well, they're not trying to court the Hispanic vote, and they're not trying to court the African American vote. What they're trying to do is to court the kind of the soft Republican vote in the suburbs, especially Republican women, because they know that they're coming across, their candidates coming across somewhat racist, and by softening up the language, they're looking to court that vote base.
So Paris, here are the string of bites that I was referring to that we pulled before the show, because we have heard a different message from Donald Trump in the course of a year. Listen for yourself.
They're illegal immigrants. They got to go out.
But how do you do it in a practical way? You really think you can round up 11 million people?
You know what? At some point, we're going to try getting them back, the good ones. You're going to have a deportation force, and you're going to do it humanely.
Are you going to be sending in officers?
We're going to be sending
a force of people into people's homes to get them out.
We're going to be giving notice. We're going to be saying you have to go. We have at least 11 million people in this country that came in illegally. They will go out. They will come back. Some will come back, the best, through a process. They have to come back legally.
All right, so Paris, does that refresh, any thought from you, or, are you ready to rephrase anything? Do you think it's been a consistent message all throughout, or has it gotten a little confusing?
I heard consistency there. I heard him say repeatedly that there's going to be treated with respect, humanely. I heard him say that if you're here illegally, you're going to have to go back, get back in line, and especially what he's been saying recently is the criminals are going to be the first to go. And he said those that are also here, there's going to be a process to get them out because they are here illegally and they're hurting our economy. So I think he's been consistent. I really do. And I think the American people can see that, and they can read his 10-point plan and see that. And back to your earlier point, he has been sincere about his engagement efforts with African Americans and Hispanics. And while he's been doing that for the past 2 weeks, we've seen Secretary Clinton fundraising and avoiding the press for 274 days.
So, Mustafa, if it is clarity from the point of view of the Trump camp, then is this a missed opportunity perhaps for Hillary Clinton? I know there was a statement that was released, a written statement earlier today, but is it a mistake? Is it a missed opportunity for her to come out and comment on the observations of Donald Trump's message?
Well, I'm sure she is. But look, she said it earlier. She quoted Maya Angelou and said that if someone shows you who they are, you should believe it. And we really should believe Donald Trump for who he is, because as Paris has said, he's been very consistent about this deportation. He's always talked about mass deportation, and the other surrogates are going around softening up the language. That's no different than putting a bunch of words on a teleprompter and asking Donald Trump to read it, and then he sounds like he's a rational person, but as soon as he starts using his own word, as soon as he gets on Twitter, we see who Donald Trump is, and we should never, ever forget that.
All right, let's leave it right there. We're going to have you back, Mustafa Tamiz and Paris Denard. Thank you so much for now. See you again soon.
Thanks.
All right, so Paris Denard, once again, and even when you put Trump's words directly in front of him, he still can't come to Jesus. Paris Denard, what a coon. Just a continuation.
All right, I want to continue our conversation and welcome back Donald Trump supporter Paris Denard and Democratic strategist Mustafa Tamiz. All right, welcome back, gentlemen.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, so if you don't mind, we'll go from our chat about immigration to the message now of African Americans, or to African American voters yesterday. A big day for Donald Trump, going to Detroit, going to the Great Faith International Ministries Church, and saying that he felt like that was quite the impact for him, even making some promises, saying he wants to reform the system. He believes that there's a great need for this civil rights agenda, and he even said, he is there to learn. And this was the assessment of Rudy Giuliani earlier today, talking about this visit by Donald Trump to this church in Detroit.
I think Donald Trump is the first Republican since Jack Kemp and me to go into minority poor communities and say the Democrats have failed you for 50 years and you are reflexively giving them your vote, and they're going from bad to worse.
All right, so that was the comment about Donald Trump's visit to the Great Faith Ministries International. So Mustafa, does Rudy Giuliani have it right? Is this a moment that Donald Trump has really upstaged any other Republican presidential candidate?
Jack Kemp will be ashamed of those remarks, and so should Rudy Giuliani. Look, Rudy Giuliani stands there and takes credit for the movement in New York, and compared it to Detroit, Michigan, where it was an industrial area, auto industry left, and it was Barack Obama who came in and lifted out the auto industry from where it was. Look, I'm glad Donald Trump went there. I think Donald Trump needs to understand the plight of African Americans in inner cities. He's never tried to do that before. The fact he's doing it right before the campaign, before Labor Day begins, is suspicious, but I'm still glad that he's trying to educate himself.
And so, Paris, what do you say to people who believe that this is disingenuous, that if he had a real interest, he would have done this long before, just 10 weeks away from the general election day?
Yeah, I think it's important to correct what the mayor said. I don't know if he was entirely true. I know Jack Kemp had a very aggressive agenda as it relates to engaging with the African American community, but so did George W. Bush when he was governor and when he was candidate running for president and when he was president for 2 terms. As it relates to Mr. Trump, again, we have to set the facts straight. This is not something that is new. The National Diversity Coalition for Trump was started long before the general election. It started when he was running in the primary, and that was an engagement effort, as well as Mr. Trump meeting with hundreds of African American pastors, having meetings in South Carolina, meeting in Philadelphia. So this
But you
is
do
a
agree
continued
this is a
effort.
new picture.
It is the first time he was in a black church at the invitation of a pastor, yes, but it is not the first time or a couple weeks out before the election that he has been engaging with our community. That's just not true.
That is true. I don't call him meeting with his advisors engaging the black community. I also don't call that bullshit meeting that he had with 100 black pastors, and there really wasn't 100 there, and they misrepresented that particular meeting. I don't call that really engagement with the black community, particularly given the fact that he was an hour and a half late to the damn meeting, and he spoke for like 15 or 20 minutes as reported by pastors that were there. That's bullshit, Paris.
Has been engaging. This is a continued effort, and it's a good thing for our Republican nominee to be engaging with our community and learning and, yes, listening to have a better understanding that when he becomes president, he's going to be the president of all people, especially those who are the least of these and have been left out by the Democrats for so many years and this administration.
All right, we're going to leave it right there.
That's even a sad.
Go ahead, real quick.
That's even a sadder statement that he'd been engaging 14 months and his polling at 1 or 2%.
8%.
It's laughable to say.
Economist YouGov poll 8%. SurveyMonkey, NBC poll has been 8%. So those are the facts. If you
I don't know what you're looking at.
Well, you know, it is disputable. There are inconsistencies from 1 to 2, and then
well,
some
you
say 8%.
pick your poll. I'll use my poll. Mustafa, use your poll. I'll use mine. I see 8%. We'll see in November.
You know, in November we'll see how many African Americans turn out for Donald Trump.
We'll see that.
See, and that's a funny thing. There was one poll that said 8%, but the majority of the polls said 1 to 2. But Paris decides that those 1 to 2% polls are all wrong, and the one that's the outlier, the 8% poll, is the correct one. So yeah, when he says you use yours, I'll use mine. But most people basically are using the average and the mean in the polls, which basically comes in at 1 or 2, and I think the 2 is even high.
All right, we still have another 10 weeks to talk about it all, don't we?
We'll be back, Fred.
All right, glad to have you back. Paris and Mustafa, thank you so much.
Yeah, so anyway, Paris strikes again.